NIO stock is up almost 27% in the last week. It's up also 27% in the last month and up almost 70% in the last 3 months. So NIO stock is looking bullish right now. It does look as if it's trying to break out and get above that key level of 770 to possibly start a new medium-term uptrend. So in this video, I'm going to conduct a price analysis for NIO stock and offer my thoughts on opinions on whether this is a stock to buy now. Let's take a look. I'd like to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/DavidB for the 5 best stocks to buy now. Use my special link to get $200 off their epic annual subscription. Now, if you find value in my analysis of NIO stock today or other stocks on my channel, you may also find value in my email newsletter. If you subscribe, I'll share with you professional trading tips to help you make more profits trading stocks. Link down below, check it out. So last week, NIO stock moved up about 30% on the news catalyst regarding the new ES8 SUV. So that's positive for the stock. And this week so far, the stock has moved up again, pushing higher, showing buyers are coming in and they're liking the value of NIO stock with the Q2 earnings just around the corner, which could send the stock surging if management can report positive earnings, reduce losses and increase sales. On the daily chart for NIO stock, we can see that ES8 catalyst did cause the stock price to surge last Thursday. It broke above this resistance line of 521 last week. It broke above, then it gapped up on the Friday, and then the buyers came back in, they pushed the price higher, and price ended up closing high last Friday at 634. And then on the Monday this week, there was some selling pressure immediately on the first trading session this week. Sellers came in, some sellers obviously taking some profits after that price surge for NIO. Think about it. If anybody bought down here at 445 or even 520, they would have been looking at a decent profit there, and some would have sold that on the Monday. So there was some selling pressure on Monday just gone, and price did move down from 670 back into around $6. But this does confirm that NIO does have now short-term support at that $6 level. So that's positive for NIO. Previously, we can see price moved up from 335, a higher base. It then moved up to about 445, again, higher base. And more recently, it moved up and broke 521. This is the first pullback this week since the break of 521, and it looks as if there is now short-term support at $6. Now, of course, it's just a few days of trading, so we need to see the whole week close out, hopefully above that $6 marker to show that's the limit for the sellers at the moment. So Monday selling pressure, but Tuesday did reverse. So buyers came back in, they pushed the price to a peak of around 684, and then yesterday on the Wednesday, a little bit of selling pressure, and NIO closed yesterday at around about 634, so well above the $6 marker here. So overall on the daily, NIO is looking bullish. It does look as if very short term it's looking to move up. Over on the weekly chart for NIO stock, we can see that since price traded down into this significant trough of $3 back in April 2025, the buyers have come back in at this price and they've started to move the stock price up in the last few months. So buyers came back in, price moved up to create this peak of 445. That was during April 2025, the last week. It was then sold off, but formed a higher base at 335 before there was 3 bullish weeks for NIO stock. This week here, here and here, and price then peaked up, creating a new peak of around 521. There was some selling pressure over the next 3 weeks, but NIO stock found support at that 445 level, which was the previous peak over here. So this appears to be a strong short-term level for NIO. And of course, last week we had that catalyst for the ES8 SUV. So investors liked that positive news for this budget-friendly SUV, and price did surge last week, breaking through 521, above $6 and peaking out last week at about 635. And so far this week, it's been a bit of a mix. Selling pressure Monday, but buyers come back in on Tuesday. So it'll be interesting to see now how this week closes out for NIO. Will it hold above $6 and then push higher next week? Of course, next week we've got the Q2 earnings report. So this catalyst could send the stock surging up towards $7. Or if it's negative, it might be sold off and fall back into 520 or even fall back into 445 support. Looking at the monthly chart for NIO stock and the big picture, we can see NIO has been in a long-term downtrend since the all-time high of $66 back in January 2021. So it has been trending down long-term for 4 years. And we know that it has had a number of counter trends during that period. So from the 66 all-time high in January, it was sold off, found short-term support during the month of May in 2022. Buyers came back in and it did have a strong month up in the following month during June, only for sellers to come back in, sell the stock off, and it found support first at 824 and then it found support again at around $7 during the month of June 2023. At that point there was a buying interest surge. It moved up during June and July to peak out at this key level of $16. And then during August 2023, NIO did reverse once again. It was sold off and it trended down to find support at around about $3.50 before having a breakout month here during September 2024. And most recently, it made this peak of 771 during September 2024, so almost 1 year ago now. Before, in the last 10 months, it has trended back down to find support at this $3 level here. And you can see a strong reversal during April 2025 this year. At this point, it did reverse, only for more sellers to come in, but this time it created a higher base at 335. Now, the last 2 months have been bullish for NIO. So July, very bullish, and August bullish. And we can see overall, over the last 2 months, this price action has broken this downtrend line, confirming the long-term trend is trying to change and move to the upside. However, as we've seen before with NIO stock, it does often break out of the confirmed downtrend, only for the stock price to reverse once it hits resistance. So you can see here it broke out in 2 months only to hit resistance at $16 and then fall away. Same thing happened here, hit resistance here at about 771 and got sold off. So right now NIO is breaking out. It does look as if it's moving up. So the risk is at the moment that when NIO hits this $7 resistance level, it could get sold off and move back to the downside, confirming that this movement is a counter trend, similar to the previous counter trends you can see on screen. Moves down, counter trend, moves down, counter trend, moves down, counter trend, moves down, counter trend, and moves down. So if it doesn't get through this level here, the risk is it's going to move back down and challenge, $4 to $3. If, this is a big if this is a counter trend. Now, with Q2 earnings just around the corner, literally next week, if that news is positive, that could make the price surge and break this level here. And if it breaks this level of 771, that would show that this price action is different. It's not a counter trend anymore. It does look as if now that it's starting a new medium-term uptrend. Over on the weekly chart, we can see the short-term trend beginning to emerge. So from the $3 low down here, we've got a peak moving up here, and then we've got a sell-off into a higher base of 335. This happened again. Bigger price peak to 521, a sell-off into 445 support. So each time it's making a higher base, showing that a trend is forming. So at the moment we've got two higher peaks and 2 higher troughs. So you can confirm a short-term uptrend. But what we need to see to confirm that this trend is not a counter trend but a new medium-term uptrend is for price to move up and create a higher base above these key levels. So right now it's challenging this 682 level and moving towards this key level here. So we might find this week that we get some selling pressure, and then next week, if we get positive earnings, it's going to break through this 772 level. It might hit resistance and maybe have another test and pull back to around about 7 and then break through the week after. But this is the key level for me to confirm that this recent price action in the last couple of months is not a counter trend, it's a new uptrend. I think it has to break this key level of 771 to show that it's not just a temporary movement and it's going to be sold off and fall away again, matching the previous 4-year trend. So how might this play out next week with NIO reporting its Q2 earnings? Well, obviously it can go either way. There are a number of catalysts at the moment that could help NIO break out of its current price action. It might offer guidance in the report next week that the Q3 sales numbers will be a record in the next 3 months. We've also got the ES8 launch and of course the L90 recently launched. So all positive aspects fundamentally for the NIO brand, and it is attracting investors to take a second look at this stock and look at the potential long term for this EV stock. However, on the downside, if the report is negative and those capital expenditures and losses, they're not improved enough to boost investor confidence. Don't forget, last time out, it was about 980 million loss, I think, US. So, it needs to be a big jump from that, maybe to negative 500 million. That's a good step in the right direction and gives investors the confidence that the path to profitability is realistic by Q4. And of course, the first quarter when NIO posts that profit, this stock is going to surge. So now it really is at a crossroads. It's sort of in the middle of sitting on the fence almost of, is it going to work towards profitability or are we going to see another negative report and the stock price fall away? So we do have catalysts that can help NIO break above $7, but if the numbers just aren't strong enough in this report next week, some investors might lose confidence, sell off, and then the stock might fall away. It might fall away and find support back at 521. Worst case scenario, it might get sold off down to 445. So those scenarios are both possible. It all depends how investors react to the news that will come out next week. Will the numbers be good enough to give investors the confidence to keep holding, maybe to buy more? Or will they be negative and some investors just lose patience and they give up and sell out? So, big week for NIO next week with their earnings call. And I think stock price could go either way. Overall, right now, it's looking positive for NIO. There's been a number of news catalysts coming out suggesting that this Q2 report could be positive and it could bolster the stock price and send it over $7. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you bullish on NIO? Do you think the report next week is going to send this price above that $7 marker and potentially surge towards 16? Let me know. Thanks for watching.